It is Wednesday, March 26th, and we're going to talk about and tap for creativity and creative problem solving. Well, welcome to Wednesdays with Gene. I am the eponymous Gene Monterastelli. Every single Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we join live here on YouTube to do some tapping, to do some teaching. The entire archive is waiting on YouTube for you, so you can go back and check out what we've been doing. We're going to be doing it all year. We got guests coming up. We got some really awesome topics. But before we begin, as always, what we're going to do is we are just going to take 90 seconds. We're going to put ourselves in our body, and we're just going to do a little bit of wordless tapping. And so all I'm going to ask you to do is just move from tapping point to tapping point so you can be in your body and be present to what we're doing. Take a nice big deep breath. And as you tap, just notice. And as you notice, if anything comes up, feel free to jot it down. And as you're working your way through this, if you find your way to one tapping point and you get stuck there and you're just parked, that's okay. Just be present to what's going on. Nice big deep breath. Again, just jot anything down that coming up in that. If you're looking for a way to track your tapping daily, track your rounds of tapping, I got a little free resource for you called the Tapping Tracker. All you need to do is go to tappingtracker.com. You can download it absolutely free. We got a 30-day, we got a 90-day, we got PDF versions, we got Word versions, so you can type directly into the tracker, or you can customize it and change it for the way that you want. It's just my gift to you. It is easier to tap consistently if we're capturing the insights that we have during the tapping and we track our progress, because it's going to make it so much more easy for us to be fully present to what is going on as we're engaging our way through it. Awesomeness. So today, what we're going to do is we are going to talk about, and we're going to do some tapping for creativity. Now, oftentimes, when we are thinking about creativity, we are thinking about creative arts or a project that falls into artistic and crafty. You know, I might think I'm using some creativity when I am renovating my house and picking colors and things like that. But the reality is, we use creative thinking constantly. Every single time you are trying to solve a problem, particularly a problem that you haven't solved successfully before, or you're presented with a new set of problems that you haven't experienced before, you're going to be in a circumstance where you need to access creative thinking. And it's shocking, like when I'm doing just regular consulting with folks about creating plans and making change before we even get into the tapping bits of it, the number of people who do not think that they are creative. And the reality is, to be human is to be creative, because we're constantly solving problems in new and different ways. If you've ever been in a circumstance where you've done something and you went, I never thought about doing it this way before, because you've discovered something, that is accessing your creative process. And for me, I think of creativity the exact same way I think of a muscle. And with a muscle, the more I use it, the more I get out of it. The more I use it, the stronger it is. The more I use it, the more supple it is for us to engage with it. And so as we step into thinking about using tapping to enhance our creativity, it's not just when I'm sitting down to write copy or to create a program or to do something artistic. It's something that whenever we're solving problems, being able to access this makes it so much more powerful. So as we approach this, there's really two ways that you can think about approaching tapping to enhance your creativity. The first is when you are about to do something creative. I spent a huge chunk of time yesterday planning the next 9 months of my art of delivery classes and really thinking about how they fit together and the best way to serve my students who are in the Tapping Mastery Academy as we look at techniques and we look at approaches and we look at what we've done in the past and what needs to be updated. And so that was a creative task that before I sat down to do it, and each time I came back to it as I took breaks and went on to other things, I did some tapping to tune into and enhance my sense of being creative. So that's one way. Like as I'm stepping into something, I'm going to solve a problem, I want to access and activate my creative sense. The other way is we just might want to be in a circumstance where we are creative more often. We are creative in new and different ways, and we're shifting our state, we're shifting our identity to a place where we are someone who recognizes and, most importantly, feels safe and comfortable accessing that creative part of us. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do 3 types of tapping, and then I'm going to talk about a little tool that makes a big difference for me that I actually used. I'm looking at my notes before we got on here. I think I used the type of tapping I'm going to tell you about 31 times yesterday. And that's not a joke. I actually typed 31 distinct times for a minute at a time throughout my day to enhance my productivity and enhance my creativity. So that's the last thing that we're going to talk about before we're done today. It's one of my favorite tools. So the first thing that I like to do when I'm facing a problem is to give myself permission to approach the problem from a sense of creativity and from a sense that I am a person who can be creative. So let's just do a little tapping on that. This is all it looks like. Tap on the side of the hand, take a nice big deep breath. If you're in a circumstance as you're watching this live or after the fact, if it's safe and comfortable, I'd really encourage you to say these phrases out loud as we tap our way through them and just move from point to point. I recognize the fact there is a part of me that doesn't naturally feel like I am creative. Creative people are artists. Creative people are innovative. Creative people are really smart. And there is a part of me that does not feel like I am creative. There's a part of me that feels like a fraud because if I claim to be creative, I'm claiming to be some artist. And I recognize the fact I am not an artist. Or at least I don't feel like one. I give myself permission to recognize to be human is to be creative. Every time I solve a problem that I haven't faced before, that is me being creative. Every time I solve a problem in a new way, that is being creative. And being creative does not mean I have to constantly come up with new ideas. Sometimes being creative is just connecting and recognizing other ideas and approaches can be combined. And so when I do it, it might feel like nothing. But in reality, that is an act of creativity. Even though I don't necessarily see myself as someone who is creative, I give myself permission to be able to acknowledge and honor my creative self. I give myself permission to recognize and embrace, even though I might not access that creative self, it is there, and I give myself permission to activate it right now. Nice, easy, deep breath. Now, as you tap through that, what were the tail enders that came up? What were the yeah buts? What were the parts of your brain go, no, we can't embrace this? Or the examples? Also, what were the insights that came up? What were the phrases that resonated deeply with you? What was something in there that you heard it and you could feel a sense of relax, or you could feel a sense of excitement, or you could feel a sense of leaning in? I'd particularly love to hear what some of those insights are. Just tap them into the chat, type them into the chat box over on the right there. Just as we continue to get a chance to capture those at the end of the session today, we're going to talk about how we use those insights, and we'll be doing that again in the future. But let me know what kind of resonated and bubbled up as you did that. Also, make sure you're drinking some water as we're working our way through this tapping. Lean away from the microphone so you don't hear my smacking mouth sounds as I take a sip of water. So that is number one. Number one, giving ourselves permission to recognize that we can be creative. Number two, when I step into something like this, is I like to activate and encourage my sense of curiosity. Because when I am curious, I am naturally more creative. And it's so funny. I talk about this all the time with my clients. If I take my head, tilt it to my left, raise an eyebrow, and go, energetically, I immediately become curious. It's like, I wonder what's going on. And just that little motion, I can feel my entire energy shift. And so you can find a posture that works for you. It might not be exactly that. But it's amazing how much pressure is immediately taken off when I let go of the need to be right and to be curious as I engage with that. So the second thing we're going to do is we're just going to do a little tapping to engage our curiosity. Tippy top of the head, move from point to point. I recognize the facts. When I am curious, it is so much easier for me to not only come up with new and better ideas, but it also makes it safer for me to engage. Working from a place of, I wonder how this works. I wonder what the solution is. I wonder how to make this easy. makes it so much easier for me to engage. As I set out to solve this problem, I give myself permission to be gentle and curious, to be interested and in a state of wonder. Because when I do that, it will be easier for me to solve problems. And now what I want you to do is I want you to tap on the collarbone or your favorite tapping point. If I'm going to tap for a long period of time, my collarbone's that, because tapping on my face for a long period of time doesn't work so well. And what I want you to do is I just want you to tune into that sense of curiosity. What does it feel like to be curious in your body? Again, for me, it's the, I wonder. But cultivate, wonder, curiosity. Feel that in your body. And then as you do that, what I want you to do is I want you to take that feeling and I want you to imagine you're turning it up. And so if it's something that's energizing, I want you to feel a little more energy. If it's something that feels expansive, I want you to feel it be even more expansive. Grow into that sense of curiosity. And as you grow into that sense of curiosity, maybe it lives in your chest, maybe it lives in your head. Feel it through the whole body. You know, so often when I'm sitting here and tapping and I tune into my system, I tune into my waist and I stop at the bend at my hips. Remember, you have legs. Remember, you have a full body. And just feel that sense of curiosity in the whole system. Turn it up. Amplify it. Take a nice easy breath. Move to the side of the hand. Once again, find that sense of curiosity. And tune it back up again. Feel it in every fiber. Feel it pulse, expand, work its way into who you are because you're creative. And all we're doing is we're just activating that sense of creativity. And just stop tapping and just take a nice deep breath. And just feel it just settling in and becoming a part of who you are. I just kind of feel a little blissed out as I do that. Again, what do you notice? What's an insight that came from that? What's something that you need to hear again in the future? What's something that as you heard it, your entire body relaxed? Jot that down. Grab that insight. Now, there might have been a tail ender saying you're not allowed or it's not safe for you to be curious. Write that down too, because we need to. We want to. It's best for us to clear any resistance to that sense of being curious, because being curious is a superpower that is so super valuable for us. Take a nice big deep breath. And any insight that came along with that, feel free to drop it into the chat box as well so we can hear what's resonating. It's good for us to hear what other people are engaging with. Third thing that we tap on, third thing I tap on when I'm getting ready to be creative, solve problems and whatever, is giving myself permission to know that it's okay to be wrong, particularly in the beginning as I'm coming up with ideas. This is an idea that I first heard like in real tangible ways Mike Schur talk about. Mike Schur was a writer for Saturday Night Live. He wrote on the American version of The Office. He created a whole bunch of television shows, including The Good Place. And he talked about being in a writer's room and being creative. And this is something he didn't come up with, but he was the first one I heard it from, is when they're brainstorming ideas, someone will say, okay, this is a really bad idea, but. And so what they're doing is they're saying, I know this is not the finished product, but this is something to help us to grease the wheels and get moving forward. For me, when I'm coming up with ideas, working through bad ideas and synthesizing incomplete ideas moves me to a place that is significantly more powerful. And so anytime I sit down, particularly in the first go through where I'm trying to solve a problem, I give myself permission to be in a circumstance where it doesn't have to be good, it doesn't have to be right, it doesn't have to be useful. But instead, by starting in that place, what it does is it allows me to engage in a deeper way. So we're going to tap for that. This idea of as I start, it is okay for me not to be perfect, and bad ideas lead to good ideas. Just move from point to point. I recognize the fact. There is a part of me that wants ideas to spring from my head, fully formed and perfect. And I am open to the possibility that the heavenly hosts of creative muses are going to touch me in this moment with perfect ideas and insights. And while I create space for instantaneous revelation, I also give myself permission to know it is possible for me to be imperfect in my ideation process. To know that bad ideas and incomplete ideas lead to profound ideas and effective ideas. And I might not even connect the dots today. So I give myself permission to engage with and access all the imperfect ideas, all the incomplete ideas, because they then become the material that is the collage of the right idea for me. I give myself permission to be gentle with myself and the process as I engage, as I figure out. I am open to ideas springing from my head fully formed. And I can also be gentle with the process. Nice big deep breath, big stretch. Again, any idea that comes popping up in that, jot it down. I don't want you to lose it. Engage with that. If there's some tail enders, if there's some concerns about being okay with it not being perfect right away, definitely write those down. That's your homework to tap on later today or sometime this week. Because if there's a part of you from those last 2 rounds that doesn't feel safe being curious or doesn't feel safe being wrong, it's going to make it so much harder for you to solve problems. It's going to make it so much harder for you to create transformation in your life. And so I want to just encourage you and impress upon you the value and the importance of being safe, being curious, and being safe, being wrong. Because only for me at least, from my state of curiosity and my state of imperfection, do I get my way to really, really great ideas. So again, anything that bubbled up inside of you, let's drop it into the chat box. We're going to gather all of those ideas. We're going to tap on them in a couple of weeks because we always gather up the insights. But let me know what resonated. I'd love to hear how this is working for you in that particular way. Again, remember to drink water as we're working our way through this. Oh, getting better about remembering not to drink into the microphone for those of you who suffer from misophonia, which it's hard. I can only imagine as we engage with that. So we tap on this idea of, there were kind of three things that we went through there. One, we tap on the sense of I am creative and acknowledging that as my identity. Number two, I give myself permission to be curious as I work my way into it. And number three, I give myself permission not to have ideas spring from my head fully formed. And I'm allowed to be wrong and incomplete and all of that. So every single time you sit down to be creative, if you do that, or if you set some time aside this week, take 10 minutes every single day for the next 5 to 7 days and just tap on these three ideas, that sense is going to show up whenever you solve a problem. Because when you solve problems quicker, when you solve them better, it just makes everything in your life easier. And so that's why it's super, super valuable. So the last thing I want to share with you is, like I said, I did this more than 30 times yesterday, and it's the tapping that I call 15-1 tapping. And what 15-1 tapping is where you spend 15 minutes working on a task, and then you spend 1 minute tapping. And the idea is that as I am working, I am spending energy. And as I'm spending energy, my resource state is diminishing. And at a certain point, as that resource state diminishes, the quality of my work also starts to diminish. You know, for something that requires a lot of mental energy and for me to engage with, you know, anywhere between 80% and 100% of my energy is great. But the moment I drop below 80, all of a sudden I'm significantly less efficient at it. Now, some tasks like folding my laundry, I can be 50% energized and be fine. But at some point, as the energy and our resource level starts to drop, at a certain point, we start to diminish in our capacity to deal with what is going on. And when that happens, because I'm in the flow and I'm working, I don't always necessarily recognize that. So what I do instead is I do 15-1 tapping. So if I am not talking into a camera, if I'm not talking to a client, if I'm not engaging with another human, teaching or recording or whatever, I am doing this all day. And yesterday, because I only had one class that I taught and I did a little recording in the morning, I had a day to myself to work on tasks and the things that I needed to be doing. So what that meant was I had these huge chunks of time, and the way I do it, I use an iPad where I got a little app to do it, but you can do it with a stopwatch or anything else, where basically you can see it has a little 15-minute timer. When the 15-minute ends, it immediately kicks over. You can't see it on the camera because it's light. It immediately goes to 1 minute. So as I'm sitting here and I'm working away, after the 15 minutes, it beeps. I just finish the sentence, I finish what I'm doing, and I just tap for the next minute. And what this does is it helps me to be as resourced as possible so that as I'm solving problems, because solving problems takes so much energy, thinking novel thoughts takes so much energy, what this does, it helps me to be present as I am engaging with that. So, simple things. 1, you are a creator. You're human, therefore you are creative. You are more creative than you actually think you are. Tap on, embrace the identity as a creator. Embrace the identity of being curious, giving yourself permission not to be perfect, and then just tap through the day. Use 15-1. It doesn't have to be 15 minutes. There's nothing magical about 15 minutes. I just find that's really, really useful for me. I got so much done yesterday by tapping in that particular way, and I think you're going to love that. So that's the way we engage with all of that. I hope you find that super, super useful. If you're watching this after the fact, you're watching it now, feel free to drop some questions into the chat box. We'll deal with those in future videos. I'd love to hear how we can provide this in a way that is more useful. Let's just take a quick look at our footnotes. Tapping Q&A podcast every single Wednesday. I go live with a new tapping video, new tapping audio, a new piece of instruction. Today's video is going live in about 30 minutes. You can find it at tappingpodcast.com and engage with that. Next 2 weeks, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about ways that you can create tapping scripts that serve you better. And we're going to do that in 2 ways. Next week, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how do you take general tapping ideas and personalize them for you. I'm going to give you some questions. I'm going to give you some approaches. I'm going to give you some techniques that make it super, super easy to do that. Easiest way to make sure you're doing that, make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Just click down, subscribe below, turn on notifications. So when we put the announcements up for those things, you can find your way to that. Then in 2 weeks, what we're going to do is something really, really fun. You can find tapping scripts anywhere and everywhere. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you some of my fun, more wackadoo ways to come up with tapping scripts. So mark your calendar. We are here every single Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And the beautiful thing is the instant we are done, this becomes available after the fact so that you can be in a circumstance where you can watch the replay or you can go back, rewatch, tap along with this over and over and over again. The topics that we have covered, almost all of them are evergreen. The only one that we've done so far, this is episode 15 of our Wednesdays. We did some stuff on holiday stress. So holidays are coming again. Maybe that will be useful, but everything else is evergreen, so you can come back to it again and again and again. Thank you for hanging out with me. If you joined me, the crew that joined me here live, or if you're watching this after the fact, it means the world to me that you're spending a little bit time with me. If you're watching this after the fact, in just a moment, on the screen, you're going to see a playlist of all the past episodes of the Wednesdays with Gene. Click on that playlist, dive in, watch some of our older content, and I look forward to talking with you and tapping with you again next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Have an awesome day wherever you are in the world. I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.